Welcome to the Inner Champions podcast. Would you like to promote your business so the world can find you? Or would you like to become a sponsor of the podcast? If so, please contact us on Instagram at Inner Champions Podcast. Lastly, follow our current sponsor at The Real Talk with Jordyn.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Inner Champions podcast. I'd like to welcome you for a very special bonus episode that I did in 2023. I hope you guys can learn something, take some notes from one of my top mentors that throughout my coaching career.
Me on your show. I can't wait to talk to you. Whatever you want to talk about, we will talk about. No holds barred. It will be fun. You just let me know where we're going.
Well, wherever you want to go, man. I took down some mental notes. I remember you wanted to talk about California's gold and how you might want to, possibly try to become close to them or like that. Hooley Hauser for another one. I got some great questions for you, but go ahead and introduce yourself. Let these people kind of know who you are, a little bit of your background, and we can just vibe from there, man.
Oh, it's so annoying to say these things, but my name is Jeff Gorham. I was a longtime son of a coach here in Riverside. I then became a coach. I was a big-time player at one basketball player, by the way. Basketball. I played, major college basketball. I played professionally overseas.
Don't let him fool you. He's very tall. He's just, he's crouched down in that chair.
6'8", 285, and I am a piece of serious granite. I am solid. I'm really not solid, but it sounds better when you're 6'8", 280, like I'm an offensive lineman. But really, I'm just 6'8". I used to be 220. I'm 280 now, but I played college basketball. I coached college basketball at the highest level. I coached at the purgatory, the community college level. And then I coached at the high school level. And then Pep Fernandez saved me. And now I'm no longer coaching. I never lose anymore. And now I get to cover Division I basketball. I cover Division I baseball. I have covered Major League Baseball, believe it or not. And I do all of Riverside High School football. And I've been doing it for 7 years. We've been averaging 25 games a year. I'm on every broadcast with Ghazal Hassan, Pep Fernandez. I'm on ESPN Plus or whatever they call it these days. I call UCR basketball. I call UCR baseball for radio. And I worked with the Quakes. I've worked with the Dodgers. I've worked with basically everybody. That's me in a nutshell. Oh, one more thing. I am the new vice president of the Riverside Sport Hall of Fame here in the city of Riverside. That is my favorite honor of all, other than being a father of 3 boys and having a beautiful wife, Carla. There you go.
Heck yeah. That's a good spiel. I love it, man.
Don't ask anything else. I'm done, baby.
Well, get that Gatorade bottle, and you're going to stay for another 48 minutes. So get used to it.
I can do it. I'm ready.
Here we go. So just to I'm gonna mix up the questions. I'm not really gonna ask them in any particular order, if that's okay with you.
A potpourri. It's like a potpourri of questions.
Just boom, 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 and then after that we can
do it.
Let's do it. Here we go. So first question is, what or who inspired you to do everything that you've done and what you're doing today?
Oh. I'm going to be honest with you. It has been at 2 different levels of my life, really 3 different levels. And I bring this back to your parents. I grew up with great parents. My dad was a coach, head basketball coach at Norte Vista High School from 1968 to 1988, I think. And then he went to Ramona, and then he ended up finishing his high school coaching career as a head coach at La Sierra, where I was also a head coach. And then helped Mark Guard at Jurupa Valley. I think in total, he helped coach. He was a head coach or an assistant coach for 70 years. So that's my inspiration to what I wanted to do. And my dad was a longtime coach. And I wanted to be my dad. My dad was my best friend. And it was nice to have my best friend taking me to practice every day. And the reason I'm gonna throw this out, because I know we have such short time here, but you figure growing up in a locker room since I was 0, we're 1, all the way until I was the high school athlete was my hero. They were my mentors. They were the guys that I wanted to be. Good or bad, you learn. But my dad was the coach at Norte Vista and took me along the ride as his assistant coach. I went to every practice, every game, and I shot 1,000 shots a day. Yes, 1,000 shots a day, because I wanted to be a good basketball player. But the things I learned more was I got to hang out with my dad. And I had a mom at home that we always had dinner on the table. She was strong. I had a brother that I depended on. But my dad was my idol. And I knew at a young age, I mean, very young, I wanted to be a coach. I saw my dad hanging out with Jerry Tarkanian, Mark Workington, Tony Macy, John Macy, Arlo Guard, Mark Guard, all these great names. I mean, Freddie Goss. Freddie Goss was the head coach of UCR. He was the first Hall of Fame or first All-American for the great John Wooden. These are people that I learned under. John Dahl, Mike Barty, coaches that are legendary. And it's by happenstance. I firmly believe that I was meant to do this job. It's what it's evolved in today. But coaching, man, it's in my blood. And I wanted to be my dad. He was my biggest mentor by far. I mean, I was with him day in and day out, and he never judged me. And I could yell and scream, and he'd say, "You're a dummy," or "You're not a dummy." And I learned from those things. And that's why I wanted to be a coach. But it was the mentorship of the young men that my dad coached, if that makes sense.
Fantastic. Another quick but to me meaningful question. As a coach, have you ever felt like you've never done enough for maybe your players or any other position you've been in? And if you haven't, or if you have, how would you go about fixing that or making it better or what have you?
Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to laugh at this one. Whoa. Okay, so I had a pretty nice career. I started out as a grad assistant for Steve Fisher. That's another happenstance thing. One of the greatest coaches in college basketball. Then I go over to RCC, and I'm with Bob Schermerhorn, Bob Russo. I've known Dave Waxman my whole life. I've known all of these coaches. Then I get into this coaching realm. And to be honest with you, when I first became a head coach, I hated every single practice. I thought I was a terrible coach and I wasn't doing enough. But when you work with so many great people and you grow around so many great minds, and as a player, I think I sell myself short, because I think I was a very good player, and I think that helps me as a coach. But I took a Norte Vista program. I went 0-22 my first year.
Mm-hmm.
0-22. And I remember the principal who hired me, Sue Boyd, she has since passed. She was one of my best friends and mentors into coaching. I said, "Hey, we're 0-22. And she goes, "Did anybody quit?" And I went, "Nope." Did everybody have a good 2.0 GPA? I said, "Yep." And she said, "How many kids miss practice as on an 0-22 team?" And I said, "You know what? None. I had 0 kids miss a practice. I had 0 kids complain about the losses. But guess what? I was starting 5 freshmen on the varsity, and we're playing big time. But you know what? I said the kids learned. They took their lumps. We went 0-22, and she said, "Well, you did your job. Nobody quit. Nobody missed practice, and everybody's eligible." She said, "Next year you'll be better." So we every single day. I went 0-22. I'm talking about I was at state championships with RCC. I've been to CIF finals. I'm 0-22. Every single day I walked in thinking I was doing a terrible job. But the thing is, kids didn't quit. And we went from that 5 guys, we ended up winning 22 games my 4th year as a head coach at Norte Vista, and making the playoffs for the first time since like 1985.
There you go, man. You flipped it.
Yeah, but you gotta, you haven't been a coach if you don't feel that way. So it's it's okay to think, God, did I do enough? And I always had this when I coached. In a game, you let the kids play. You practice as hard as you possibly can to get your team prepared. You show them video if you can, or you just prepare them. You say, "We're going to shoot better than everybody. We're going to work harder than everybody. We are going to give it our all." And if you can get those 3 things, you can win games. And we won games because kids bought into it and they loved it. I never a kid miss a practice other than he had his wisdom teeth or a tonsils, miss a practice in 4 years. I did my job, but I never, ever felt satisfied.
That's right. Can never feel satisfied. Absolutely.
Never. And I always doubted myself. But that's how you have to be if you want to continue to be a better coach.
Absolutely. Completely agree. You, like Blazeman said earlier, you have great energy. I knew this was going to be great. We'll kind of throw, how I never really said how I kind of like knew of you or met you. So guys, just so you guys know, in the chat, I've been, as most of you know, and I've done episodes on it. I've been coaching now for 17 years, and I've been blessed to do it. A very special opportunity I took years ago as a youngin', and I'm still young. I'm still very young. But this person, why I brought him onto my show, believe it or not, and he doesn't know it, and he does after I texted him and called him. We've done everything for a week, but he inspired me. Things that I've heard about him, how I've listened to him on the radio. Things I've taken mental notes from what he said to other things and his own show, his own doing, and looking up at the press box going, I know that man, but I don't know that man, but I'm going to know that man someday. And today's the day, and I couldn't be, any more proud of that. But anyway, next question is, I know you kind of already went to the question, but who other than your father has been your mentor?
I'm going to have to say, it's somebody I think a lot of people know and don't really know is a guy named Mark Gard. Mark Gard is a longtime coach at Harupa Valley. And then, his father was a longtime coach at Riverside Poly, coach likes of Reggie Miller, some great players. But I think the biggest inspiration in my life has been I have a brother. He lives back in New Hampshire. He has his own family. He moved back a number of years ago, but there's always been a guy that's been constant in my life, and I'm going to get emotional here, is a guy named Mark Gard. And he's been not only a mentor to student athletes, but a mentor to men, for the last 40 years. I coached under him. I learned how to control my energy level. I learned how to get kids motivated. And he was the one guy, no matter what, that I turned to, even besides my father, has been a guy named Mark Gard. He taught me all the right things to do in the world. My dad as well, but Mark Gard has been my moral barometer. And he's been my dearest friend. He's been my best man. He was the first person at the hospital when my sons were born. And he's just one guy that I depend on in this world now that my dad's no longer with me. Mark Gard's there, and for the foreseeable future, unless he dies like tomorrow, I think we're in pretty good shape for the next few years.
No, and the reason why I wanted to bring him up is guys that you don't know. Mark Gard was my athletic director for many, many years, and when I went to Harupa Valley as a student, and he's very right about Mark Gard's always been someone who's spoken up and helped you and helped me. He helped me also stay humble with this whole coaching thing. There's been several times I'm not going to sit here and lie that I'm like, okay, it's not for me anymore. Eventually down the line, someday, maybe in a couple weeks, I'll reach out to Mark Gard and see if he'll want to do an episode with me. But great dude. And then a couple other questions I have for you besides the coaching aspect. How did you meet Pep Fernandez and get into the broadcasting side of things? Is that something you've always wanted to do, or?
No, I mean, I was always kind of fun. I mean, I've always been a fun guy. I'm not going to BS you at all. Like, I think that when I coached at Nordavista, I took it, I enjoyed it. And that's when I resigned and retired, because we hit our ceiling, but Pep Fernandez used to cover me. And I remember one time I was playing La Sierra against my former assistant coach, Justin Norman, he's 10-0 against me as my former assistant coach, beat me 10 straight games. But anyways, that's beside the point. So I took a team over to La Sierra, and I had Arlo Gard, I had Mark Gard, I had Jay Franklin, who was the coach at Ramona. I had my dad, I had, I think, John Smith, and a couple other division, like big time head coaches. And they all sat on my bench for one game to try to beat Justin Norman. He beat me, and I had all these great head coaches on my bench. They had like a million wins, and we still lost. But Pep Fernandez covered the story, and we were friends. He said, "Why don't you quit this coaching stuff, because you're going to have a heart attack?" He gave me a heart attack, by the way. We'll talk about that later. Oh, yeah. But Yeah, he did. Pep Fernandez gave me a heart attack. So I quit coaching because he said, you know what, you can do more for this community than coaching basketball. And I looked at him and I wanted to punch him in his nose right away, to tell you. And then he said, no. I said, he goes, I'm positive. I've always been a positive guy. He goes, your job is to be a positive guy in Riverside for coaches. And I said, I can do that. And he said, hey, you might be able to get paid on the back end of this thing. And I went, I can do that. And he goes, you can see your kids and you get to hug your wife. And I went, I can do that. And I said, do I get to win or lose? And he goes, you always win because you go home and you get to hang out with your kids and there's no more practices. And I went, I'm in. That's how I met Pep Fernandez. And we have been thick as thieves, best BFFs. Is that what they say these days? We're fire, we're lit, we're pals. But I do know this. I know Pep Fernandez better than anyone in the world. You can ask me anything you want about Pep Fernandez and I'll answer it. He's not a communist. He's not a communist. I can guarantee you that. He's not a communist. But he is a wonderful human being. And I will say this, working with Pep Fernandez, is we hear all of the BS, and that the acronym for BS, we all hear it. And Pep has heard more stories, breaking stories, than anyone I've ever met. And the one thing he's never done is he's never, ever, ever made it negative. Everything is positive, and that's why I'm with Pep Fernandez to this day, and we are like stepbrothers. Weird stepbrothers.
Weird stepbrothers. Well, now I can now that I answered asked some of those questions.
Got into it. Okay, but then I got into it with all these other guys. Everyone else started inviting me to join their shows, and I'm calling college basketball. I'm calling college football. I went to Ohio State, Michigan. I stood on the sidelines, and I called a sideline report for the radio. That's a bucket list thing. And this is all within the last 7 years. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Pep Fernandez, for putting me in all this stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much as far as like my questions for you, but I know we can elaborate more. And I know you said you wanted to talk a little bit maybe, or make it a part of the show.
What do you mean that's all the questions you have for me? I thought you wanted to know like how many kids I have, how many, do I have a dog, a cat? What's my favorite beverage? I mean, seriously.
I told you we could take.
No. Okay, I want to go back. We're gonna turn this bad boy over to you because I've been following you a lot longer than you know, my friend. Are you good right now, or do we have to go to break? What's going on?
We're gonna go to break, and if the clock's right, about 7-8 minutes. So
okay, well then you got 7 or 8 minutes to mess around with me. Don't say that's enough of your questions. I have questions for you.
Good.
Okay,
that's right.
Okay, now why, as a coach? I mean, you want to be a coach, but you also want to be a broadcaster. You sound like a mini me. You're a little person like me. You and I. You know what? You should come live at the stately Gorham Manor. I have 3 sons, 16 or 17 now, 10 and 6.
Ooh.
I have a pool. I live in the Bat Cave. If anybody who's ever followed me, they know that I live in stately Gorham Manor. No one knows exactly where it is, but I'll give you directions. I have a pool. It's called Shangri-La. I'm telling you, we'll have beverages. We'll have grapes fed to you. I have a big German Shepherd. He'll protect you. But, man, I want to know this. Do you want to be more of a coach, or do you want to be more of a radio guy?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Don't forget to follow us on all the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. Thank you for listening to the show.
I early on, I wanted to be more of a coach, and my parents, and this has always kind of been an argument in our house. They've always told me that I've had a radio niche, and I've never seen it or never, put forth the effort to try it out. And this, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that download button for this particular episode, thank you. I have the capability to probably do that. And so I'm just exploring, and hopefully, who knows where anything can go, all doors are open.
Now, my biggest question to you is, I mean, you're a football mind. You worked with Derek Johnson. You've worked with a lot of guys. Jason McMains, he's evil, He's really evil. You just know that.
Okay.
He knows that. I'm saying, I love Jason McMains. I love his wife, his daughter. Oh, wonderful people, but he's evil. But listen, as a coach, what is the hardest thing for you? I mean, seriously, I know your story, and your story is phenomenal. What's the hardest thing for you as a coach, either coaching junior high or if you're coaching high school football, basketball? What's the hardest thing for you?
Wow, I'm glad you asked that question, because I really don't get the chance to elaborate. One, because I just don't really want to put too much focus on it. But since you asked the question, I will. It is not being the proper example, but showing the proper example. So, like, for example, let's say, hey, I want a kid to do a proper layup, or hey, I want a kid to do better technique and better form. For me, it's because of my situation, and I'm sure you've seen, if you all could do me a huge favor and follow my sponsor with the Real Talk with Jordyn podcast. Thank you. About it here. But things like that, being able to be that example and be like, no, proper technique. I can do it with the hand and everything like that. But actually going out there with the basketball, standing up on my own to do it, let alone to, show them. And a lot how I've coached and how I've been successful, believe it or not, is YouTube. Taking my notes and just sharing proper slow-mo YouTube links and be like, no, this is what I need you to do. And that's how I've been successful at the Youth Parks and Rec with my middle school team for the last 8 years. Is it a challenge every single day? Absolutely. If it wasn't a challenge every single day, I wouldn't be alive. So, I have to adapt and I have to overcome, and just like anybody else in life. And again, that's what this show has brought in me, to be able to share my story in multiple ways and everything else. So that's probably one of the biggest struggles.
Well, can I tell you, I thought about this last night when I was thinking about you. Yeah, I was losing sleep over you. I was losing sleep. And
I do it too, trust me.
Don't lose sleep. Come on. I will say this, though. That was my one question I wanted to ask you. And I have a lot of others. But the biggest thing I thought of, you know what? The better, the more years you coach, the kids that you coach, you're going to find guys that will be able to make that layup or be able to throw that pass perfectly, and you use those guys as your how this guy shoots perfect layup. I'm going to use little Steve over here or little John, and I think you can do that greatly as a coach. And I thought about this. You don't have to know how to be able to make a layup or show a head screen or those things. That's why you teach your guys through video. There's so many. We didn't do this 20 years ago when I was coaching. We didn't have any of this stuff. It was just
where was Huddle at 20 years ago?
Exactly. Well, I didn't know how to use it. I can barely turn on my damn TV. But guys like you will be able to master this and take coaching to a whole new level. I mean, that's got to be exciting for you.
Oh, it is. It really is. And again, that's another thing that's really kept me motivated to continue to do it, because of technology, because of, like you said, and I do have someone at the doing the middle school basketball over here at Parks and Rec. I do have a former player who's actually been helping me out for the last 2 years. She's my assistant head coach. She does those things. I can say this about her because we've had conversations, but she's my practice dummy. I can say, hey, show them this. And she knows my structure. She knows how I want it to be shown, or whatever the case may be. And that's how I'm trying to do things now, because I'm at this level, they're at this level, and they want to continue to learn like I learned. So I'm teaching as well as a whole team. I'm teaching her still. So she's been a blessing to me. And one of these days I'm trying to get her on the show and get her family on the show and really thank them for what they've done. So, and the sacrifices they made.
Will you please put the practice dummy and her family on the show, for God's sake?
I'm working on it.
You said I'm going to put the practice dummy and her family on it. That's would have been the best. To put that as your title for the next one. I love it.
There you go.
That's great. You have Coach So over there. You and I have some similarities. Like I said, at Miraloma Middle School, you had Coach So. I had Coach So. I had Coach Berghorn, and I had Freddie Goss. Those were three great guys.
I love Freddie Goss. He was my history teacher.
You know what? He still has an offense. He was a big-time coach at USIU. He was at Paris, UCR.
Yes. I know him from UCR. Yep.
He had an offense he used to call the Hully Gully.
Yep. I remember he told me about it.
But nobody knew what the hell the Hully Gully was. No one. And so Fred gave me, I have the, clipboard. It says property of Freddie Goss, and he wrote underneath Hully Gully and gave it to me when I left. So I asked him before I left, I said, what's Hully Gully? He goes, I don't know. I don't know. The great
Nice.
Freddie Goff. See, even great coaches don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. You remember you were talking Marilama. You remember Miss Hill? She was my PE teacher.
Yeah, she was tougher than nails, and she always had a great tan. A great
Yeah.
tan.
Yep.
Yeah, she was
great tan, great husband. Me and her husband Clip. Yeah.
Dude, wonderful. See, small world there, my friend. Now, what are your bigger plans now? I mean, you've coached football. You dabbled in the football. See, I dabbled in basketball was my life. Now I dabbled in football. Now football is my life.
I want to thank you guys for listening to this very special episode that I was able to do in 2023. This individual was a very big inspiration, still is a very big inspiration to me and what I've been able to accomplish. This was just a episode from a previous program that I used to do, I guess podcasting or, whatever how do you want to call it. And I hope you guys were able to just see how I can be the things that I've done more in detail. Being able to talk to a co-host, it is capable. It is something that I want to get into hopefully here on the Inner Champions podcast one day. But more importantly, thank you, Jeffrey Gorham, for doing this episode in 2023. This is just a good throwback for my current listeners here on the Inner Champions podcast that I found through my archive of, saved episodes. And I just wanted you guys to get a taste of what I did back in the day and kind of my voice for radio, if that makes sense. So thank you all for listening to the Inner Champions podcast. We will see you on Tuesday for a very special series that will begin called the Success Starter Kit. Make sure to do the following. Follow us on all social media platforms. Please also make sure to follow my sponsor at the Real Talk with Jordyn podcast on all of her platforms. All her links will be in the description of this episode below. Make sure to let her know that Coach sent you over to her platforms, and appreciate you all, and we'll catch you very, very soon for the next episode of the Inner Champions podcast. Thanks for listening.